An excuse of a mother took the life of her own child and ruined my Sill's life. First of all, it is a long and horrible story, so apologies in advance. Second, English is not my first language, so pardon any mistake I may make. This happened in August 2017 and involved 2 lengthy lawsuits, one of which lasted 1.5 years and another for almost 2 years. I'm not directly involved in it, as it happened to my sister-in-law. Back in 2017, my sister-in-law was in her final year of nursing school. She was required to intern as a trainee nurse for 6 months. She chose to join a private school for her internship. It was one of those international private schools where kids of ultra-rich parents go. Part 1. The incident. The 15th of August is India's Independence Day, and there was a celebration in the school. It was your usual flag ceremony, with a flag march by students and a student band, some plays by students depicting events of the freedom movement, some cultural exhibitions put together by each class, food and game stalls by teachers, etc. At the end of the day, the top 3 class performances, plays, and cultural exhibitions were awarded, and select students were given a certificate of excellence for outstanding performances. Everything was going normal in the beginning, but a student collapsed during the parade, so he was brought into the doctor's office. The doctor checked him and found that he was running a moderate fever and was also slightly dehydrated. So the doctor gave him some medicine and asked my Sill to give him a glass of glucose water. He scolded the kid for participating in the parade while in fever and wrote him a note excusing him from any further activity. He then asked the kid if his parents were present, and the kid said that his mother was there. So the doctor told him he could go home if he wanted, or he could sit in the shade with his mother to watch the rest of the ceremony. The kid asked if he could just stay there and rest for a while, so the doctor said that he could use one of the beds to take a nap. Since there was nothing else to do in the office, the doctor excused himself to go and have something to eat from the stalls, leaving my sister and a janitor in the office. Hardly 5 minutes later, the mother M marched into the office and went directly to check on her child. My Sill tried to tell her that the kid was running a fever and taking a nap, but M ignored her. She shook the kid and asked him how he was feeling. The kid said, "Fine." M said, "Good. Now get up. You gotta get ready for your play, sweetie. Everyone else is already dressed up." My Sill again tried to explain. "He is running a fever. He wants to rest." M replied, "Oh, it's fine. He is fine. Aren't you, sweetie?" The kid just looked at my sister. Sill said, "The doctor has excused him from other activities. It would be better if you just took him home and let him rest." M said, "It is just a play. I'm sure my sweetie can handle it. He is a tough man. Isn't that right, sweetie?" Sill tried again. "It would be better for him to just rest. He is still under fever." And with that, M lost her mind. She screamed to my Sill's face, "Oh, you know what's better for him? I'm his mother. I know what's best for him. How dare you? My son is the topper of his class. He is playing the most important part in the play. He is the best. If he doesn't participate in the play, he will not get the certificate of excellence. He needs to stay at the top of everything, or else he'll become a laughing stock. So don't you dare tell me what's better for him." The kid, seeing his mother losing her mind, stood up and said to my Sill with a smile, "It's okay, sister. I'm fine. Thanks for caring for me." Shocked and stunned, my sister only managed to say, "Let me call the doctor." M retorted, "I come from a family of doctors. My father is the director of a well-known private hospital. You people aren't even qualified enough to work in a hospital." She grabbed the arm of her child and marched away. My sister called the doctor, who said, "Well, it's our child. What can we do? We did our part." About an hour later, the same kid was rushed in again, as he again collapsed during the play. The doctor checked on him, gave him an injection, and asked him to be transferred to a hospital immediately, as the kid was unconscious and not responding. An ambulance was called, and kid was taken to the hospital. The day ended without any other incidents. 2 days later, the school learned that the kid had passed away in the hospital. My sister was distraught upon hearing the news. She kept crying for the rest of the day. She kept saying how it was her fault, and how she could have prevented it if she stood her ground. The kid smiled at her and thanked her for caring for him. We told her that it wasn't her fault and consoled her to the best of our abilities. Even her professor from nursing school came and tried to make her feel better. About a week later, she was informed that the school was opening an inquiry, that a board of inquiry would look into the matter, and that she would be called for an interview. The doctor assured her that it was just a formality for school to cover all the bases, and she didn't need to worry about it. In her interview, she stated everything that happened. She was then asked why she felt it was her fault, as she said so to the class teacher of the kid in her crying fit. She explained that at the time she was overwhelmed by emotions and thought she could have done things differently. She was asked if there was anyone who would corroborate her story, and she named the janitor who was present in the office at the time. She was then informed that she was placed under suspension until the inquiry concluded. When she went back to collect her things from the office, the doctor once again assured her that there was nothing to worry about and that he would make sure that no harm would come to her. A few days later, she received a letter from the school saying that they had concluded the investigation and found her guilty of negligence, and thus her contract was terminated. She called the school supervisor, who informed her that her story did not match the story told by the doctor and the janitor. Thus, there was nothing that could be done. Termination of contract meant that she couldn't complete her final term on time, so she submitted an application for extension to the nursing school. She thought it was over, but boy were we in for a bomb dropped on us. Part 2. The legal trouble. A few days later, 2 cops knocked on the door of my father-in-law and asked to speak to my SIL. They informed them that the family of the kid filed an FIR first incident report against my SIL. They accused her of causing the unalive of the kid. They asked if they could question her, but my father-in-law denied it and told them they could only question her in the presence of a lawyer. So the cop asked her to come to the police station the next day for the questioning. We got the lawyer immediately, who had first called the cops and asked for a later date to be set for the question. Then he told us to get anticipatory bail ASAP, in case the police decide to arrest her, so we did. In the questioning, the lawyer talked for the most part, and he provided them with my written statement. The police asked their questions and directed my SIL not to leave the state without informing them first, etc. A few more days went by, and she received a summons from the court, as the state decided to try her for the crime. The lawyer suggested tracking down and speaking to the janitor, as he was the only witness in the otherwise she said case. And so we did. The janitor was reluctant to talk at first, but after my sister begged him, he told us that the doctor told him that if he told the truth, he would be admitting to the same mistake that nurse did and would be fired for sure, and the only way to save himself was to tell the story that the doctor was telling him. The story the doctor told the school's board of inquiry was that he had the kid under observation with a strict instruction that he would not be released under any circumstances, and that my SIL released the kid without asking or informing him. We asked him to testify in court, which he initially refused but later agreed to with a bit of persuasion. Once we had janitor on our side, the lawyer also filed a case of wrongful termination against the school, accusing the inquiry of being partial and biased. Once the court hearing started, we learned that the M told white lies to the father of the kid. She never told him that she forced the kid to perform in the play. Instead, she said the kid wanted to play his part. She also hid the fact that the nurse objected and showed her the doctor's note. Her story was that the kid wanted to participate in the play, and when she asked the nurse said everything was fine and he could play his part. The case went on for a year and a half. Janitor provided his testimony, which the prosecution tried to discredit by saying that he told a different story during the school inquiry, so he was not a reliable witness. But the judge refused, taking note that the doctor tried to intimidate him, and in turn asked the prosecution if they investigated the doctor's part in the incident as to why he forced the janitor to lie and why he was not present during his duty hours. When prosecution replied in negative, the judge asked police to file a case against the school doctor. During her speech, my sister got very emotional and started crying as she recounted the events of that entire day. The only witness the prosecution had was the child's mother, who couldn't keep her story straight during cross-questioning. Finally, in the judgment, the court ruled in my sister's favor, noting that the prosecution's witness had massive holes in her story, while the defendant provided a solid witness. He also noted that even if prosecution was to be believed, the defendant, being only a trainee nurse, wasn't even qualified to release the student, and by taking the kid away without the doctor's expressed opinion, the responsibility for consequences fell on the mother of the child. He also commented on the school's mismanagement. By not having a fully qualified nurse, they were in violation of federal laws. He scolded the prosecution for having tunnel vision and going after the defendant, who was obviously innocent and a vulnerable young girl herself. After the court ruled in our favor, the school decided to settle the wrongful termination case. It was finalized last month, and we can finally put it all behind us. However, due to all the emotional distress and trauma, my sister-in-law decided to drop out of nursing school, thus ending her dreams of becoming a nurse. She will probably join an honors course next year, but right now she is still troubled with the nightmares of going to jail and needs therapy to get over it. The police have opened a fresh case against the doctor who was let go from the school this year. He is also being investigated by the state's medical association for wrongdoing. If found guilty, he will be barred from practice. We have no information on M or her husband. Edit. Thank you kindly, generous Redditor, for my first gold. Although I'm not sure if I deserve it after all, this is the story of my sister-in-law. Thank you again. Edit 2. Wow, this blew up. I was not expecting it to get as much attention, given the horribleness of the story. Thank you for all the support and love you have given. Kind Redditors who gave me platinum, gold, and silver, thank you for your generosity. And finally, to all the people who are looking for, searching for, or asking for news reports. As I said in one of the comments, it did make it to local news, but I will not provide any link or give even a remotely identifying detail because the information in the news can be used to track and dox my sil. She already had a lot of SHT to deal with. Many of her peers were just assuming her guilt. She is having a lot of trouble dealing with the fallout of this entire episode. She is afraid of even stepping out of the house, and she is having frequent nightmares of going to jail. I really do not care whether you believe this story or not, but do not ask me which state it took place or any other detail. I purposefully kept the details in the story as vague as possible. I hope you understand. Thank you once again. Update. I don't know if this is the right way of doing this, but since so many people have DM'd me asking for an update on the post I made here over a year ago, I'm posting here with all the new information I have. The school doctor. The school doctor was arrested and later released on bail. Police charged him with Section 304 causing unalive by negligence of the IPC, among many others. The case is ongoing, and I'm not aware of his current whereabouts. The entitled mother. The police did not charge her for causing the unalive of the child. She, through her lawyer, claimed that she only allowed the child to participate in the play because the child said he was fine and wanted to play his part. She claimed she doesn't remember the nurse mysil, objecting strongly against that. Rather, she believed that the nurse was only suggesting that the child should stay in bed. She then blamed the school and the doctor for neglecting the well-being of her child. She also claimed that she was blinded by the rage and grief when her child passed away and wrongfully accused the nurse when the doctor was obviously at fault. The IO said that even if my sister testified, they didn't have enough to prove that she, through her actions, caused the unalive of her child. The wealth of her family might also have played a role in this. The father of the child. A couple of months after the case was over, the father of the child visited my father-in-law and expressed his regret for how things turned out and apologized for putting my sil through everything. He wished to speak to my sil, but she wasn't comfortable facing him, so he left. My sister-in-law. I read to her all the positive responses and support she got in the thread. She was overwhelmed and very grateful for all the kind words. So thank you, Reddit. But actually, in the end, all it took was a global pandemic to reignite her passion for helping people. As soon as the pandemic situation started getting worse, she started regretting her decision to drop out of nursing school. She said that she just couldn't sit at home and watch, while her friends and mentors were out there fighting the war against COVID. She wanted to do her part, and we encouraged her. So she contacted her professor, who spoke to the school authorities, and they agreed to let her rejoin the course, given her unique circumstances. She has volunteered and is currently helping with vaccination efforts, and we couldn't be happier for her. She still struggles with anxiety, but she is getting therapy for that, and I honestly think that being back in the medical field and helping people in need has done wonders for her self-esteem and confidence. Keep in mind that she is not in a critical role in the vaccination program. She is only helping with maintaining records and paperwork. But hey, every hand counts, right? That's all the update I have regarding the matter. Thanks again for the support you guys have shown in the thread and in the DMs. Stay safe, everyone. Edit. One thing that I missed including in the post is that, as far as we know, the parents of the child are no longer living together. The M is currently living in her daddy's home. And finally, a couple of you DM me and asked again for personal details and news article links. Please stop. As I said in the original post, I will not provide any even remotely identifying detail about my sil. I don't care if you think I'm lying. I don't need to prove anything to you. Thank you. Additional comment from OP on the child's father. My father-in-law said that he, the father, was very apologetic and seemed like a sensible person. He was very distraught. He said that he believed his wife's version of the events at first, but after learning the truth, he just couldn't forgive her, and that they were no longer living together. And the child's injuries. No, if he hadn't left, then he wouldn't have unalive. Because it was falling from the ladder and hitting his head. That was what unalive him. Yeah, he was dehydrated and had a fever. Exertion just further added to that, leading him to pass